Well, what we're going to go over here today is really nothing new for our long-time watchers of this channel. However, when the London School of Economics asks this question of Brexit is a policy fiasco, were voters deceived during the referendum, you can only really answer that question with yes, of course they were. We've been over this numerous times, however, it's just so cathartic to really go over this, especially when you've got someone with, a really good background, an educational background, a doctoral background, in fact, in the case of this guy, in politics, economics, and things like that. So, is Brexit a policy deception? Were voters deceived during the Brexit referendum? Darrin Baines, Sharron Brewer, and Adrian Kay examine how political processes and programme failures combine to create a fiasco that mainly misled many voters into believing that leave was an actual and easy deliverable policy option. This blog summarises the analysis originally outlined in their recently published paper, Political Processes and Programme Failures in the Brexit Fiasco, exploring the role of policy deception in the Journal of European Public Policy, a special issue on the Brexit fiasco. So, during the 2019 general election, Boris Johnson's rallying call was "Get Brexit Done," with the implication that 1. Leave was a real deliverable policy option, and that 2. Parliament and the EU and Remainers were obstructing the Conservative government's attempt to exit Europe. The Brexit withdrawal agreement came into effect on February 1st, 2020, but Brexit as a policy terminus is still to be determined. Profound policy questions, from the protection of social rights to the workings of British regulatory state, do not have answers. Far from suggesting that Brexit has been done, the uncertainties associated with the current transition period and beyond suggest that leave is a policy deception that has fooled voters and is proving near impossible to deliver in the ways suggested it was at the 2016 poll. The leave referendum option has been so hard to deliver because voters were deceived. Cameron's government, guided by the Electoral Commission, included leave on the 2016 ballot paper, when this alternative had not been properly planned, negotiated, or even agreed. Leave was an empty vessel, and voters who believed this alternative was real, a viable policy pathway, were misled. And hence it has led to a political fiasco. The word fiasco is a theatre slang for failure in performance. The Brexit fiasco was caused by the combination of 3 internal political failures. 1. The failure of Cameron's political performance. 2. The UK government's failure to complete the institutional processes necessary for exiting the EU. And 3. The failure to deliver the required policy programmes. The etymology of the word suggests that these political processes and policy failures involved deception. The term fiasco originally derived from the Italian phrase "to make a bottle." A fiasco is a type of round-bottom Italian bottle that is its own tight-fitting straw basket. In 1574, the Italian government started to clarify the vessel's contents with a special seal applied to the outer straw casing in order to deceive customers. Producers started reusing their certified baskets and vessels containing less liquid so that greater profits could be made. So, on to the Brexit referendum. The UK's Electoral Commission was tasked with choosing 2 official campaign groups that could be trusted to fill the 2 standard-size Brexit options fairly. By choosing Britain Stronger In, which was the Remain side, and Vote Leave, the Electoral Commission put its seal of approval on their campaigns. This may have supported the belief that they were both trustworthy and both viable policy pathways. Many voters were unable to see through the straw casing created by the Electoral Commission's approval of Vote Leave as the official exit campaign, which stopped them seeing that the leave option was an empty policy vessel. The Brexit referendum allowed voters to choose between Remain and Leave, supposedly two equivalent vessels containing different political contents. These ballot options were the same size, then the electoral process would be democratic and the choices equal. However, Leave was a baseless referendum option with no intrinsic policy value and could not automatically be cashed in for any set of policies or political outcomes. There was a misconception that because it appeared on the ballot paper, the Leave option was backed by something in policy terms. Designers of a UK successful functioning outside of the institutions of the EU. The Brexit referendum resulted in a process failure because the Conservative government was unable to deliver the baseless Leave option in a timely and efficient manner. Voters were systematically deceived by the promise of a post-EU international agreement backed by the necessary political and legal and economic arrangements. In 2016, neither did these arrangements exist, nor were the plans put in place for their eventuality. Cameron failed to put the policy procedures into place to create a viable exit plan, secure agreement that for that plan from other to form that exit from the other EU member countries, or it did not have a clear and deliverable way to deliver the Leave option. It was a systematic deception that misled voters into believing that the official alternative to Remain was backed by something. Given the lack of details about the type, the nature and the outcomes of the policy programmes after the exit, Vote Leave deceived voters by suggesting imaginary political changes with imaginary social economic consequences. The Brexit programme failure has its foundations in the political promises made by Vote Leave. The lack of pre-agreed terms for Britain's exit meant that Vote Leave could invent their own policy programmes and designate their own face value without fear of contradiction. They could print their own baseless political currency. Cameron's failure to secure an agreed terms for leaving before the referendum was also allowed EU leaders to refuse to cash in on the UK's exit decision at a viable, acceptable to the government, the Parliament, and therefore maybe to the many of the electorate. Therefore, Brexit may only be deliverable at a substantial economic loss to the UK, rather than producing the substantial benefits promised by the Leave campaign. As a result, there is likely to be a significant difference between the expected and realistic benefits of Britain's withdrawal. The cost will be incurred because the Leave option was not based upon an agreed set of policies with known value. This is like buying a bottle of wine without checking the volume of the liquid first, and only to find that it is less full than something expected when after you opened it. So in sum, Leave is a baseless policy deception that misled enough voters into believing that exiting the EU was a readily deliverable policy alternative, and that could automatically be delivered. As negotiations during the current transition period may highlight, this deception may be difficult to deliver because no one has yet clearly specified what the 2016 Leave option means, including Boris Johnson's government, which has already declared that they've got Brexit done. Sound familiar? Yeah. We've talked about this ad nauseum since the very beginning. Leave had nothing, and as a result, the people blame Theresa May, they blame the EU, they blame Remainers. No, this was your project, and your Brexiteers have produced nothing. Absolutely nothing with any form of substance as to where we are going to end up. Even Nigel Farage came out and said on live TV the whole reason he never put an actual plan together, even though he did, to leave the EU was because he knew voters weren't smart enough to get it. He referred back to the Scottish independence referendum, where Alexander Salmond put forward his vision of how Scotland was going to leave, and basically said voters didn't understand it, hence they didn't vote for it. And that is complete nonsense, because here's the thing: if Salmond had won, that referendum, there was a plan in place of how it was going to happen. At the moment, there's nothing going to happen. There has been no policies, no action. There is no map. It's like, let's go on a journey. Where are we going to go to? I don't know. And this is what is also causing so much stuff. I mean, here's the thing. You've got now a huge situation where it looks like the coronavirus is going to cause a recession. Now, this is going to cover up a lot of the damage that Brexit is going to do to this country. But it's going to be even more severe, this recession, to our country because of the coronavirus. Not only that, when recovery starts to happen, which it will not happen in the UK due to numerous reasons. And thus, we can declare officially, as we have already has done, that Brexit will not work. It is a failed ideological project by the right wing and far right in this country, and it will not bring any of the benefits that Leave promised, and it was based on nothing but lies, and the people who were the ringleaders of this are the ones to blame, not the people who voted for it, because they have been conned into thinking that somehow this will be beneficial to them. It will not. Because sooner or later, these people are going to turn around and realise, why isn't my life better? I thought we voted to leave the EU to make my life better. How come it's not happening? And sooner or later, these people are going to turn on these people, on Boris Johnson, on the Conservatives, on Nigel Farage. As bizarre as that sounds, it will happen. And then, where does that anger go? Because that's a very, very serious question that we have to ask. Because now you have a serious situation where you have all the ingredients for a potential rise in fascism in the UK, of people who will offer easy solutions to really difficult to solve problems.